Tonight, my friend, you awaken not in the comfort of your own bed, but in the cold gray light of a medieval morning. The air smells of smoke iron and something far less pleasant, the lingering tang of blood. You rub the sleep from your eyes and remember with no small amount of dread what your station is. Today you are not a knight, nor a farmer, nor a merchant. No, today you serve as a barber-surgeon, one of those curious figures of the Middle Ages who trims hair, shaves faces, and when called upon opens veins and removes limbs. The room around you is your workshop, though others would call it a chamber of horrors. A stool for shaving, a bench for bleeding, and a crude table where bones are cut and flesh is stitched with coarse, trembling thread. The tools hang on the wall, razors, forceps, and saws, their steel dulled and darkened from years of use, their handles sticky with oil and something you do not wish to name. The scent of boiled herbs lingers, fighting a losing battle against the heavier smell of iron and fear. Outside, the first patient waits, clutching his jaw, eyes wide with desperation. A rotting tooth, no sleep for days, and he knows what you will do to him. There will be no mercy, only a quick hand to pull with iron and a bottle of ale to soften the edges. And as the sun begins to climb over the crooked rooftops, you take a breath, steady your hands, and prepare for another day that will stain your apron crimson before noon. If you find this tale to your liking, comment the number 1. If you do not, well, press the like button all the same. Now sit back, settle in, and let us drift into the strange, blood-soaked world of the barber-surgeon. You did not dream of this life. No one ever does. To be a barber-surgeon is not a calling from the heavens, but more often a quiet sentence handed down by birth or misfortune. Perhaps your father was a barber, trimming the beards of weary merchants and cutting the hair of restless soldiers. Perhaps he was also a man who, on days darker than most, tied a tourniquet, bled a fevered farmer, or took a saw to a leg gone black with rot. You were his child, and so when your hands grew steady enough to hold a razor, this strange double craft became yours as well. The people do not truly see you as a healer, nor do they think of you as a mere tradesman. You are a curious figure, one foot planted in the shop, another in the sick room. In the morning, you hold a comb clipping away tangled strands, the soft snip of hair falling to the floor like whispers. By afternoon, you hold a blade, its edge meant not for grooming, but for cutting into flesh. In their eyes, you are both servant and savior, a man who can leave them handsome, or leave them bandaged, pale, and grateful for a beating heart that still beats. The tools of your trade lie waiting each morning, lined upon the bench like a row of silent witnesses. The razors, still slick from yesterday's shaving, gleam faintly in the dim light. The bandages, rough and scratchy, are wound tight, ready to bind. And beside them, the saw, always the saw, its teeth dulled, but not broken, stained a permanent rust red that no scrubbing will erase. You have learned not to look at it too long. Most mornings, as you light the hearth to boil your water and steep your bitter herbs, you think of the day ahead. You will shave, you will bleed, you will perhaps save a soul or two from the jaws of fever, and you may, if the fates decree, cut away a limb to keep the rest of a man alive. There is no glory in this work, no song sung for your efforts. Only the quiet understanding that someone must do these things, and today that someone is you. And so, with apron tied and hands washed in cold water that never feels clean, you push open the shop door. The day begins, and with it the endless tasks of a man whose life teeters always between the gentle hum of a barber's trade and the grim silence of the surgeon's art. Yet this is but the start, for when the morning truly comes alive, it brings with it not combs and scissors, but aching jaws and cries for relief, and soon the first of many teeth will find its way to your blood-stained floor. It stands outside your shop like a sentinel, twisting quietly in the morning air, a wooden pole wrapped in stripes of red and white. To the weary traveler, it may seem a simple marker a cheerful sign for shaves and haircuts. But those colors painted in soft spirals tell a deeper story. The white is the bandage, the promise of some form of care. The red, darker and more honest, is the blood, the price that so often comes with that care. Long before you inherited this pole, men like you bled patients by the roadside, tying their arms with cloth, making a small, deliberate cut to drain away what physicians called the excess humors. The pole in those days was not simply decoration. It was where the weak gripped tight while their life's warmth trickled into a basin below. When the bandage was stained through, it would be washed, then hung to dry, twisting in the wind around the same pole, crimson and pale, a signal to the next soul that a barber-surgeon was near. Now the pole is painted, not wrapped in the linen of yesterday's patients. Still, its meaning lingers. When villagers see it, they know this place is for more than hair and beards. It is for aching heads, swollen joints, fevers that will not break, and wounds that threaten to fester and claim a life. The colors bright against the gray of the street do not promise comfort. They promise someone within will act however harshly to keep death waiting at the door. Each morning before the first knock at your door, you glance at the pole. Its quiet spin reminds you of the work ahead, and of those who came before their hands stained the same as yours will be before the day is done. The villagers pass by, some with a nod, some with a shiver, and more than a few casting eyes away, as if by not seeing the pole, they can pretend they will never need what lies within these walls. And yet before long, someone will step inside, clutching their jaw, their arm, or their belly. The pole has called to them without a word. And soon your tools, the basin, the blade, the cloth, will speak for you. But first, the morning will bring its familiar chorus of muffled cries and desperate requests. And the first task of the day, as always, is not stitching wounds or setting bones, but facing the endless parade of jaws and teeth that cannot be ignored. The sun has only begun to warm the crooked rooftops when they gather. They do not come for clean shaves or tidy trims, not this morning. They come with jaws gripped tight, cheeks swollen, and eyes dulled from nights without rest. The line forms in silence along the street, each figure shifting their weight, whispering soft prayers, as if words might soften what they know is coming. For each the door they approach is not the entry to a shop, but the threshold of pain, followed by relief. Inside the tools await. A wooden chair worn smooth by years of desperate hands clutching its arms. A basin of cold water meant not for comfort, but to wash away what remains when the work is done. Upon the table, iron pliers, their surface darkened by years of labor, lie beside a roll of linen for patients to bite if they can manage it. There is no true relief here, no gentle vapors, no sweet draught to numb the senses, no quiet needle to steal away consciousness. There is only the bottle of ale you hand to each, and the silent hope that it dulls their fear before the iron finds its mark. The first to sit is a farmer, his lips pulled taut, his knuckles pale and stiff as they grip the chair's edge. You rest a hand upon his shoulder, steady and deliberate, a wordless assurance that your hand will be quick. The pliers close around the offending tooth, the metal sinking into the swollen gum. At first, it resists, clinging stubbornly, as if some part of him cannot surrender what little remains. But with a firm twist and a hard pull, it yields. A wet snapping sound fills the room, followed by the muffled cry of a man caught between agony and release. The tooth, blackened and spotted with rot, drops into the basin, its soft clink, a grim punctuation. More follow each, bringing a story of sleepless nights, festering gums, or pain that crawls from jaw to ear like fire. Some faint in the chair, their bodies limp as rag and rope, while others curse in languages older than the village itself. A few endure in perfect stillness, eyes fixed upon the rafters, their lips barely moving as they count heartbeats until it is over. Between each, You wash your hands, though the scent of iron never fades, no matter how long your fingers linger in the cold water. By midday, the basin is heavy with its macabre collection. The line outside has thinned the murmurs of dread, fading into the distant hum of village life. Yet the day's work is only beginning. Soon the bleeding bench will see its first soul, and the slow measured work of letting blood will begin. By the time the teeth are gone and the morning crowd has faded, a quieter line begins to gather. These are not men and women clutching jaws, but figures whose very posture seems drained of strength. Their faces are pale, their lips dry, their bodies wrapped in cloaks despite the mild air. Some tremble as they wait, though it is not the wind that chills them. They do not seek the pull of iron from a tooth, but the slow draw of blood from their veins, the treatment every scholar insists can rebalance a troubled body. The bleeding bench is always ready. It is plain and narrow, its wood worn smooth by countless hours of waiting and the weight of slumped bodies. A small curved blade lies on the table, kept polished, though never for beauty, only to make the work swift. Beside it rests a coil of linen, the bandage to bind the arm when the ritual is done. The basin waits beneath empty for now, though you know by the day's end it will not remain so. The first patient lowers himself onto the bench, his eyes fixed on the rafters above, as though counting the dust for courage. You secure the linen around his upper arm, fingers seeking the vein by touch. With a steady breath, you draw the blade across his skin, a shallow, practiced cut. Warm blood rises and flows into the basin below, dark and slow at first, then steady. The faint scent of iron creeps into the air, mingling with the sharp smoke of herbs smoldering in the hearth. The man exhales a long, wavering sigh, half relief, half surrender. One by one, they come. Some for fevers that refuse to break, others for aches in their joints, and many for ailments so vague that even the learned physicians can offer no name. They leave with lighter bodies and heavier bandages, their faces pale, not from sickness alone, but from the strength they've left behind in the basin. You wash the blade, rinse your hands, and glance at the dark liquid pooling below. It is a sight you've grown used to, though it never truly feels ordinary. The day presses forward, and so must you. The line outside does not end, though each soul who enters carries a different shadow of illness. Yet you know the hardest work is still to come, for not every wound can be soothed by a careful cut and a slow stream of blood. Soon the bench will be cleared, and the saw heavy cold, and waiting will take its place in your hands. The afternoon creeps in with a strange stillness. The steady hum of voices outside has quieted, broken only by the sound of hurried footsteps and the low groan of a cart's wheels rolling over uneven stones. When the door opens, two men step in, their faces pale and strained. Between them is a third slumped against their shoulders, his leg wrapped in a ragged bundle of cloth, already dark with blood. The smell reaches you before the words do, a heavy mix of wrought iron and damp wool. There is no discussion, no time for talk of remedies or prayers. The wound is black along its edges, the skin mottled, the air around it sour and faintly sweet, the scent of flesh already claimed by decay. If the limb is not taken, the man will not last the night. His eyes, clouded with fever, do not meet yours. He knows what is to come, though, perhaps not fully. Few ever do. The table is cleared. A simple plank set atop sturdy legs. It is hardly the comfort one would wish for such a trial, but it will hold. The saw is brought down from its hook. Its weight is familiar, the handle worn smooth by years of hands that did not wish to hold it yet always had to. You heat the iron for cautery, setting it near the coals, its glow slow to rise. The apprentice pours ale into a cup, guiding it to the patient's lips. It will not dull the pain, not truly, but perhaps it will soften the edge of his fear. When the work begins, time seems to slow. The tourniquet is tightened high on the thigh, the man's breath sharp and ragged. With a steady grip, you make the first cut, the blade finding its path through skin and muscle. The saw follows its rhythm, measured, not hurried, but not lingering either. The sound is not one you ever grow used to, a low-grating song of steel and bone. The man shudders his grip, crushing the arm of the apprentice, who holds him down, yet he does not scream. Fever has dulled his strength. When at last the limb is free, the iron is pressed to the wound. A hiss, a faint curl of smoke, and the acrid scent of burned flesh fills the air. It is done. The man is pale, lips trembling, but alive. The severed limb is set aside, covered with cloth, as though modesty can hide what was lost. Outside, another cart creaks over the stones. Today it seems the saw will not be returned to its hook so soon. Yet even in such grim hours, the work continues. For once the wounds are closed, there are tools to be tended, instruments as vital and as haunting as the lives they touch. As the cartwheels fade into the distance and the room settles into its uneasy quiet, your attention turns to the tools that shape your work. They lie upon the wooden bench in a careful row, still and gleaming in the dim light, each with a weight and a memory of its own. These are not the polished instruments of a healer's dream, but the worn, stubborn companions of survival. Each bears the mark of years of countless hands and countless lives. The razor's long and narrow rest at one end, their blades sharp enough to glide over skin, yet sturdy enough to open a vein when called upon. They are the most familiar, their edges maintained, with quiet patience, honed upon a whetstone, until they catch the light like a silver thread. Beside them lie the iron forceps, cold to the touch, their jaws strong enough to hold a stubborn tooth or a shard of bone, though their grip often leaves bruises behind. The saw commands the center. Its handle is smooth, with age worn by the same reluctant grip that now holds it. The teeth, though dulled by time, are kept keen enough to bite quickly, for hesitation is cruelty. It is a tool you use with purpose, never with pride, and when it hangs upon its hook, it is as though the room itself exhales. For when the saw rests, the worst of the day is done. Near the hearth, the cautery irons wait. Their tips, blackened by heat and use, are shapes you know by touch as much as sight. They hiss when pressed to flesh, sealing wounds, halting blood, leaving behind the acrid scent of char and the faint waver of smoke. They are cruel in their manner, but they are the difference between a man breathing at dawn or not at all. A basin of water sits nearby its surface, clouded with the faint sheen of lye and herbs. Each tool once used is wiped clean, rinsed, and set to dry. It is not perfection, not the sterile world a distant future may demand, but it is the best you can offer in these walls. The work must continue, and for that, the tools must be ready. The room smells of metal smoke and faint bitterness. The light from the window falls across the bench, catching the dull glint of steel, and for a moment everything is still. The day is far from over, yet the tools wait patiently as they always do. And as the shadows grow longer, it is not just the tools that demand tending, but the young hands that carry them, the apprentices who stand at your side, learning the weight of this strange and heavy craft. The work is never done with one pair of hands alone. By your side, as the shadows lengthen and the scent of iron lingers in the air, stand the apprentices' young faces, some barely past boyhood, their eyes wide with the weight of what they are learning. They do not hold the tools as you do not yet. Their fingers tremble when they touch the handles. Their steps falter when the cries of a patient echo through the room. But they stay. They must. Their tasks are not the kind one dreams of. One wipes the benches when the work is finished, his cloth stained and heavy with the traces of the day. Another stokes, the hearth feeding it until the cautery irons glow a dull, steady red. A third stands beside the patients, holding their shoulders, their wrists whispering quiet words to steady them while the saw or the blade does its work. These are the moments when the apprentices learn more than any master can teach: the stillness in the room, the unspoken balance between mercy and necessity. They fetch what is needed before you must ask: the bowl of water, the clean linen, the bottle of ale that steadies a patient's courage more than their body. They work with silent urgency, their breaths slow, their eyes following your every movement, as though each motion holds a lesson they must not forget. For one day, it will be their hands that tie the tourniquet, their grip that steadies the saw, their calm voice that holds a patient on the edge of panic. At night, when the last light fades and the door is shut, they sit on the floor near the dying embers of the fire. The day has stained their hands, their sleeves, even their dreams. Some speak softly, asking questions they were too afraid to voice when the patients were listening. Others sit in silence, staring at their fingers as if seeing them for the first time, wondering if they will ever grow steady enough to do what you do without shaking. You do not offer them false comfort. This craft is as heavy as it is necessary. But you know as they do that someone must learn and someone must carry it forward. The world beyond these walls will always need hands that can hold a blade and hearts steady enough to use it. And when the hearth's last ember fades, the night grows deeper. Yet the work does not truly end, for soon the hour will come to mix the bitter drafts, the potions and powders that soothe, numb, and sometimes silence the pain. When the last cries have faded and the tools lie drying by the hearth, another task begins. It is quieter than the saw, gentler than the blade, yet no less heavy in its purpose. The small wooden table in the corner becomes your workbench. Upon it, bowls of dried roots, corked bottles of dark liquids, and a mortar worn smooth by years of grinding. Here, in the soft glow of the fading fire, you prepare the drafts that will dull pain, calm the fevered, and at times grant the mercy of sleep that lingers deeper than dreams. Mandrake root, its twisted shape resembling a pale, gnarled figure, is shaved into thin slivers. A small pinch is enough to bring a man to the edge of slumber, yet too much can carry him past the point of waking. Henbane bitter and sharp to the nose is ground fine, a powder that slows the senses and blurs the mind. These are not potions for comfort. They are mixtures balanced upon the thinnest line between aid and peril. Your hands must be steady, your mind clear, for a careless measure could turn relief into silence. The ale still warm from the hearth serves as the base. It masks the bitterness, though never entirely, and carries the herbs through the body with a swiftness born of experience. For the worst of wounds, or for the rare soul about to face the saw, with full awareness, a few drops of opium tincture may be stirred in a luxury not always at hand, and one not given lightly. Its comfort is deep, but its hold can linger, calling men back to its haze long after the wound is closed. The air grows heavy with the mingled scents of crushed leaves and simmering brew. The apprentices move softly, passing what you ask for without a word. Each sound, the scrape of stone against root, the slow bubbling of the mixture, the soft clink of glass, fills the room with a rhythm that feels almost like a lullaby after the harsh chorus of the day. When the potions are ready, they sit in small clay cups upon the table, their surfaces dark and still. Some will soothe the restless through the night. Some will brace the wounded for what dawn will bring. And some, though rarely, will help a soul slip gently past the reach of pain altogether. But even as these cups cool in the quiet, the day moves on. Soon the patients who remain will need more than drink. They will need wounds tended, bandages changed, and the careful touch of hands, weary but still willing. The afternoon settles into a slower rhythm. The cries and clatter of morning have faded, leaving behind a softer chorus, the rustle of linen, the faint creak of wood, and the low murmurs of those who wait. It is the hour when wounds fresh, or festering must be tended. The work is quieter now, though no less demanding. The benches are wiped clean, a basin of warm water set upon the table. The apprentices move gently, as though the air itself has grown fragile. Bandages cut from coarse cloth are laid in neat stacks. Beside them, small jars of poultices, weight mixtures of crushed herbs, powdered resins, and for those who trust the old ways, the faintest trace of animal matter said to draw out infection. The scent is heavy, but not sharp, a mingling of earth smoke and something faintly sour. Each patient comes in silence, lowering themselves slowly onto the bench. A soldier with a slice along his forearm, the wound swollen and angry from days of neglect. A farmer whose foot bears a blistered burn from a careless ember. A boy no more than 10, his knee split open from a fall on the cobbled street. None cry out now. They have little strength left for noise. They only watch as you clean each wound with slow, steady motions, your hands pausing to rinse in the basin, the water turning cloudy with each passing moment. The poultices are pressed into place, their coolness a fleeting comfort. Bandages follow wrapped snug, but not tight, tied with a knot that can be undone without struggle. For the worst wounds, a dusting of ground herbs is added bitter to the nose, meant to stave off the creeping rot that so easily follows even the smallest cut in these streets. It is not a guarantee, only a hope. Between patients, you sit for a moment, letting the faint warmth from the hearth reach your fingers. The apprentices move around you with care, their footsteps soft, their voices hushed. The room feels different in these hours, not the sharp fear of morning, nor the grim urgency of midday, but a quiet persistence, as though each breath carries the weight of duty rather than dread. As the last bandage is tied and the final jar of herbs set aside, you wash your hands once more, the scent of lye and smoke clinging to your skin. Outside, the light is dimming. The day edges toward evening, and the work, though steady, begins to feel heavier on your shoulders. Yet, there is no pause, for the world beyond these walls does not forget you. Soon the door will open again, not with pleas for help, but with the wary glances of those who both need and fear the barber-surgeon in equal measure. As the evening shadows lengthen, a different sort of visitor appears beyond your door. These are not the sick or the wounded, not the ones who clutch a jaw or stagger with a fever. These are neighbors, tradesmen, or travelers passing through whole in body, but wary in spirit. Their eyes linger on the painted pole outside, tracing the red and white spirals, as though they are something more ominous than mere paint. When they glance at you, their gaze is brief, never resting too long, as though fear itself might spread if held. To them, you are neither a simple barber nor a trusted healer. You are something caught in between a man who trims hair one moment and carves flesh the next. They know your tools. They have heard the cries from your shop, and though they nod when they pass, their steps always quicken. Mothers will pull their children closer, their whispers hushed, warning them not to stare too long. For in their minds, you are a man who lives closer to blood and death than any soul rightly should. And yet, when illness strikes, or a bone snaps, or a wound refuses to close, it is your door they seek. No priest can stitch a torn muscle. No merchant can set a broken arm. Few others will stand steady when fever burns so hot that the patient babbles of angels and shadows. In those moments, their fear is swallowed, and need brings them to you, no matter how their stomachs twist at the thought. You do not resent their unease. You have seen what your work looks like to those who do not know it, the saw, the basin, the stains that no scrubbing can truly erase. Even your hands, washed a dozen times, bear a faint trace of the day's work, a scent of iron that clings no matter the water's chill. Fear is natural, you think, but so is necessity. Outside, the street grows quieter. The painted pole sways gently in the evening breeze, the red and white stripes catching the fading light. You stand in the doorway for a moment, feeling the distance between yourself and those who walk by. Needed but never quite welcomed. Called upon but rarely greeted as a friend. And as the last passerby disappears into the dimming street, you step back inside. There is still work to be done, though not for others. The day's final task waits, tending to your tools, sharpening the edges that will meet tomorrow's dawn. Night begins to settle, and with it comes a weight heavier than the day's labors. The room is quieter now, but the silence carries a shadow of its own. For all the bandages wrapped, for all the herbs brewed and wounds stitched, not every patient leaves your door with breath still steady. Death in this place is not a rare visitor. It lingers like a scent, faint but constant, a presence that neither you nor your apprentices can ever ignore. Some deaths are swift, a fever rising beyond reason, a wound festering faster than your hands can cleanse it, a heart too weary to bear another day. Others come slowly over hours that stretch into the dim glow of the hearth, while the patient drifts between murmured words and long silent pauses. You remain near, watching their chest rise and fall, counting each breath without meaning to. You have learned not to hope too much, not to speak promises you cannot keep. The apprentices often look to you in those moments, their eyes searching for guidance. You do not tell them to harden their hearts. You know the weight will find them no matter your words. Instead, you teach them the quiet rituals to close the patient's eyes, to clean the body with gentle hands, to wrap the limbs in cloth, so the family may carry them home without the harsh marks of the day upon them. Small mercies perhaps, but mercies still. And for yourself, you have learned the art of stillness. You do not linger long over the faces of the dead, nor do you turn away in haste. You simply pause, as if offering a silent acknowledgement that their suffering has ended, even if it came not as you had wished. There is no sermon, no weeping, only the soft sound of linen being tied and the faint hiss of the hearth as another log settles into embers. Death does not grow easier with time, though you might pretend it does. It remains the quiet companion of your craft, the shadow that follows every cut and every stitch. You do not chase it, nor can you banish it. You only work day after day to keep it waiting as long as you can. Outside, the night deepens, and the last of the candles burn low. The tools rest the apprentices' sleep where they sit, and the room hums with the faint warmth of the dying fire. But for you, the day is not quite done. One last ritual remains before you can let the silence take you. Soon, it will be time to tend to the tools themselves, sharpening edges and readying steel, so that tomorrow's dawn may find you prepared once more. The fire in the hearth has dwindled to a soft bed of embers, casting a dim glow across the room. The air is quiet now, save for the slow, steady rasp of steel against stone. One by one, each blade is drawn along the whetstone, the sound low and rhythmic, a whisper that fills the empty space. The razors, the forceps, even the saw, all must be cleaned, oiled, and made sharp again. Tomorrow will not wait, and the tools cannot fail you when the first knock sounds upon your door. You work methodically, pausing between strokes to wipe each edge with a cloth dampened in lye and herbs. The scent lingers, sharp and bitter, but familiar. It is a ritual as much as a task, a way to ease the weight of the day while your hands remain busy. The tools are more than implements. They are silent companions, each one bearing the memory of a life touched or saved or lost beneath your roof. When the saw is hung once more on its hook and the last drop of oil rubbed into the razors, the room feels lighter, as though it too exhales. The apprentices, their shoulders heavy with exhaustion, have long since dozed near the hearth. You drape a cloth over them to ward off the chill and step outside for a moment. The night air is cool, carrying the scent of distant hearth fires and the faint salt of the nearby sea. The street is nearly empty now, save for a few lanterns swaying in the breeze. For the first time since dawn, the world feels still. In the corner of the shop, a small jug of ale waits left over from the morning's work. You pour yourself a measure, the liquid warm and earthy, and sit upon the wooden step. Each sip eases the tension in your shoulders, though it does little to quiet the images of the day. Faces linger, cries echo faintly, but the hum of the night wind softens them until they feel distant, like half-remembered dreams. The stars above are faint veiled by the thin clouds that drift slowly past. You watch them as the last of the ale leaves your cup and the night deepens. Tomorrow the work will begin again. The teeth, the blood, the saw, and the long line of faces, both fearful and trusting, that will come to your door. But for now, there is only the quiet, the faint warmth of the embers behind you, and the steady rhythm of your own breath in the cool dark. And in this stillness, with the tools resting and the day finally done, you let the silence hold you until the morning calls once more. And so, my friend, another day in the life of a barber-surgeon draws to a close. The blades are oiled, the saw hangs quiet upon its hook, and the last embers in the hearth fade to ash. Outside the streets lie hushed beneath the cool veil of night, and within these walls, the echoes of the day, the cries, the hurried steps, the whispered prayers soften until they are only memories adrift in the dark. It is a strange life, one lived between care and cruelty, between the comfort of a warm shave and the chill weight of a saw's handle. You do not seek glory, nor do you expect gratitude beyond the weary nod of those whose lives you have touched, whether saved or stilled. Yet there is a quiet truth in this work. Each bandage tied each breath, steadied each life, nudged one step further from death. These things linger, even when the faces blur and the days blur with them. In our time now, far from these dim and bitter rooms, it is easy to forget such hands once bore the burden of both beauty and survival. No soothing vapors, no gleaming halls, no knowledge beyond the crude lessons of those who came before. Yet without them, the path to gentler healers and cleaner places might never have been walked. Even in their roughness, these barber-surgeons carved a road for the world to follow. So as you drift toward your own rest, let gratitude find you not only for the comfort of your soft bed and the certainty of gentle care, but for the strange, weary figures who once held the line between life and the long silence beyond. If you have found comfort in tonight's tale, I ask you to comment the number 1. If not, well, press the like button anyway. Sleep well, friend. Until the next story, this is Silas Whitmore bidding you a quiet night.